بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وينزل عليكم من السماء ماء ليطهركم به ويذهب عنكم رجز الشيطان وليربط على قلوبكم ويثبت به الأقدام.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين والعاقبة لأهل التقوى واليقين، ثم الصلاة والسلام على سيد الأنبياء والمرسلين حبيب إله العالمين العبد المؤيد الرسول المسدد المصطفى الأمجد المحمود الأحمد أبي القاسم مصطفى محمد صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم. أما بعد، فقد قال المعصوم عليه الصلاة والسلام: كل شيء لك طاهر حتى تعلم أنه نجس. Islam is a religion that is easy in accordance with man's nature. Its commands, injunctions, and orders are simple and easy. There is no doubt that God desires and wishes ease and comfort for us. He does not want to put us under difficulty or hardship. Never does Allah wish to impose hardship and difficulty on us. Islam as a whole is a religion of tolerance, mercy. It's a religion of ease and comfort. Nowhere in the Islamic texts and in Islamic laws do you find any injunctions, any laws that are opposed to man's nature and that are imposing difficulty and hardship on men. Every divine injunction, every divine rule is within man's capacity, within man's ability and tolerance. The Holy Quran says, يُرِيدُ اللَّهُ بِكُمُ الْيُسْرَ وَلَا يُرِيدُ بِكُمُ الْعُسْرَ. Allah desires ease for you and does not want hardship for you. This is a verse in the Holy Quran in chapter Baqarah, verse 185. Elsewhere, the Holy Quran says, مَا جَعَلَ عَلَيْكُمْ فِي الدِّينِ مِنْ حَرَجٍ. God did not impose any difficulty or difficulties on you in the religion. You are at ease insofar as you are a Muslim. You are in comfort insofar as you are practicing Islam, insofar as you are a practitioner and adherent to Islamic laws. Many people wrongly believe or think about purity and impurity, about cleanness and uncleanness. We find them sometimes anxious, sometimes frustrated, and they continue to remain in anxiety and frustration and despair when it comes to the rules of purity and impurity, when it comes to the rules of Taharat and Najasa. Unfortunately, when it comes to the rule of tahara or to purity and impurity, many people continue to suffer. Many people don't know what to do. They wonder whether something is pure or impure, whether something is clean or unclean. I should say that unfortunately most of us have made Islam difficult for our own selves. We have made it difficult for us. Islam is not difficult, it is not hard. It is we who have made the Islamic laws and who consider the Islamic laws to be very difficult, to be very unbearable, to be insufferable. No. مَا جَعَلَ عَلَيْكُمْ فِي الدِّينِ مِنْ حَرَجٍ. God never imposes or never imposed any difficulties on you within the religion. God wants us to be in comfort and not to be in discomfort and not to be in difficulty. Let us not make things difficult for ourselves. There is a general principle, a rule, which is known as the principle of purity or the rule of purity, which is derived from a saying from the infallible Imam and also from the Holy Prophet, who said, كل شيء لك طاهر حتى تعلم أنه قذر أو حتى تعلم أنه نجس. There are different narrations in this regard that have been transmitted from the infallible Imams and from the Holy Prophet, peace be upon him, telling us that everything is clean, everything is ritually pure, and so far as you do not know that it is impure. You are under the obligation to treat something pure, to consider something as ritually pure, insofar as long as you do not know that it is impure, as long as you do not have knowledge and certainty that something is impure. Everything is pure unless you find it, unless you come to know that it is impure. Of course, Islam has mentioned explicitly those things which are impure, those things which are ritually unclean. Those things are clearly mentioned. Once you know those things, once you know those essentially and inherently impure objects, then apart from those objects, you have to treat everything as clean. You have to consider everything as clean. كل شيء لك حلال حتى تعلم أنه حرام. This is another saying. Everything is halal, everything is permissible for you unless you come to know that it is haram. Now there is a food product sold in a Muslim market or even in a non-Muslim market. That food product should be considered as pure, as halal. And you are not under the obligation to investigate or to do a research whether that food product is haram or impure or not. If that food product does not contain meat, if it does not contain impure ingredients, then you are allowed to eat it. You are allowed to consume it. Okay. You are living in a non-Muslim community, you are living in a non-Muslim country, and you buy a certain food product. You don't know whether it contains meat or not. You don't know whether it is impure or not. If you do know that it is not impure, then of course it is permissible for you to consume it, to eat it. But if you are sure that it contains meat, if you are sure that there is something impure or something najis in it, then you cannot consume it. You cannot eat it.
يا محول الحول والأحوال حول حالنا حول حالنا يا أحسن الحال.
Unfortunately, when it comes to the rules of purity and impurity, cleanness and uncleanness, what is known as Tahara and Najasa in the Islamic jurisprudence and in Islamic terminology, many of us tend to be suffering from some sort of obsessiveness, some sort of disease, which we call it obsessive compulsive disorder. The doctors call it. They say obsessive compulsive disorder. Many ladies and many also men suffer from this disease. Some of them know that they are suffering from obsessive compulsive disorder or OCD, and some of them do not know. Irrespective of whether they know that they are suffering from this disease or they do not know, they have to treat everything as clean. They have to consider everything as pure. They have to act like ordinary people. They have to see how ordinary people act and behave and treat when they come across something. When they want to eat something, when they want to buy something from the market, when they want to consume something, treat anything as impure. But those who are suffering from OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder, they consider everything as unclean, while the teachings of the Holy Prophet, the teachings of the infallible Imams say completely the opposite. They recommend us to act like ordinary people, to treat everything as clean. You are using a carpet, you are using something like kitchen utensils or kitchen appliances, and you do not know whether they are impure or pure. Of course, everything is pure unless you gain knowledge, unless you become certain that it is impure. Even those who are living in a Buddhist state or in a Buddhist country, like Muslims living in India, Muslims living in this subcontinent, they live with Hindus, they live with Sikhs, with Buddhists, with atheists. Islam does not want them to face difficulty or to suffer difficulty. Islam wants them to be at ease. The same rule that we apply to everything around us in our daily life, those living with Hindus and Buddhists, they should also apply the same rule. And the same rule is applicable to them. They should treat everything as clean. Though they associate with atheists, with Hindus, who are ritually impure according to Islamic teachings, but again, Islam says that until and unless you are not sure, and so far as you have no knowledge about something being impure, you should consider it as pure. Now you want to go to a Hindu restaurant and you want to eat food. You cannot survive without eating food. You're living in a city where there is no Muslim restaurant. How are you going to do about it? What are you supposed to do about it? Of course, you can go to a Hindu restaurant and eat there. You can eat food that is halal. You can eat food that does not contain meat. You can eat the food that you do not know to be impure. Of course, sometimes you think that, okay, Hindus are ritual. Okay, Hindus do use their hands to prepare the meat. They sometimes don't wear gloves. Sometimes they do wear gloves. Okay, but you have not seen them using their barren hands, their naked hands, washing something or preparing the food or touching the food. You can eat the food that you do not know to be impure. Insofar as the food does not contain meat, you can eat it. If it contains meat, then of course you have to make sure that the meat is halal. You have to make sure that the meat comes from an animal that has been slaughtered according to Islamic laws. The position is the same with those living in a Christian community, with those living in a Jewish community, and those who are living in a community that is predominantly Christian or Jewish. You should remember that the people of the book are ritually pure. They are clean. They are tahir. You can eat their food. You can use their food. You can interact with them. If their hands are wet, if their bodies are wet, you will not be affected. Your hands will not become impure, because Islam considers the people of the book, Ahli Kitab, as ritually pure. But indeed, if their food contains meat, then again the same rule is applicable. You have to make sure that the meat is halal, and you have to be 100% sure. You cannot guess, you cannot act on conjectures, you cannot simply guess that the food is halal or that the meat is halal. Definitely, you must make sure that the meat used and the food that is served to you or by a Jewish host is halal. Now, these are some examples of Islam being easy, Islam being a simple and easy religion. These are examples of Islam being a religion in accordance with man's nature, with man's intrinsic.
ناجيتك يا رحمن ودعوتك يا ديان يا خالق الإنسان الله 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 يا خالق الإنسان الله الله الله.
Tendencies and inclinations. Dear brothers and sisters, I would like to give you another example of a frequently asked question. Most of people living in a non-Islamic country and in a Christian or Jewish dominated country ask questions about food products that contain gelatin. They ask whether the gelatin being in the food product is halal or haram. Islam being a religion Islam being a simple religion, Islam being a religion that has simple and easy and practicable and feasible codes, tells you that if you do not know that the gelatin comes from animal or from vegetable, then it is not necessary for you to do a research. You can continue to treat and consider it as halal. Because gelatin is an ingredient that can come from vegetable sources and from animal also. As long as you do not know that it comes from an animal source, then of course that is enough, that is simple. The rule is simple. You can consider that food product as halal and as pure. And if it does come, if the gelatin comes from an animal source, but it's very much likely that the gelatin may have gone through some chemical changes, some chemical transformation. If it is possible, and if it is very likely that it has gone through some chemical transformation or chemical changes, then again you are allowed to eat it, because the gelatin has transformed into something else. Just as a dog, when it drowns into a sea of salt or in a saltish land, and then it gradually turns into salt, it becomes pure. The same is true with gelatin. If it goes through a chemical transformation, it becomes halal. But if you learn that it does not go through a chemical transformation, it has not changed, then of course you are not allowed to eat it. But insofar as there is the probability, there is likelihood that it has changed, then of course it is not necessary for you to do a research or the company, the producing company, whether it has gone through a change or not. Then of course you can consume it, you can use it and eat it. Eat the product that contains gelatin. One more example I would like to give you, just to help you understand that Islam is not a difficult religion. One of the difficulties or problems faced by Muslims and non-Muslim countries, and even in Muslim countries, is the problem regarding leather products coming from non-Muslim countries to Muslim countries, and leather products that are bought and purchased by Muslims in non-Muslim countries. What are non-Muslims supposed to do? Of course, the rule is the same. Those living in Muslim countries, of course, they do not have to investigate. They can use the leather products without having to do a research. For example, some people living in Dubai, they buy products imported from non-Muslim countries. They can use the products because the Muslim market itself is an purifying agent, actually. As long as you buy and provide something from a Muslim country, from a Muslim market, then that product is considered as halal, even if it has been imported from non-Muslim countries. But if you buy the same products from a non-Muslim market, then of course you have to investigate, you have to do a research about it being halal. You cannot use it during prayers. For example, you have bought a leather belt, You cannot use it during prayers if you have bought that leather belt from a non-Muslim country. You have bought, for example, shoes. You have bought a car with leather, actually seats, or with seats covered with leather. If the leather becomes wet, if your shoes become wet in a rainy weather, then of course you must wash your feet, you must wash the part of your body that has come in contact with the leather. You cannot offer your prayers without washing your feet. You cannot offer your prayers without washing that part of your body that has come in contact with the wet leather. Dear brothers and sisters, these are some of the examples and some of the instances of Islam being easy, and I just want you to remind you that you should not try to make things difficult for you. You should not try to make things difficult and unbearable for you. Islam is as easy as any other religion. Of course, no religion is as easy as Islam. Islam is a tolerant religion. And those things which are pure, they are huge in numbers. We cannot count the pure objects, but we can count the impure objects. There are only 10 inherently and essentially impure objects. Inshallah, in the next session to come, I will explain the rules regarding those essentially and inherently impure objects. So do watch the next program, the next lecture. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
اللهم اختم بعفوك أجلي وحقق في رجاء رحمتك أملي وسهل إلى بلوغ رضاك سبلي وحسن في جميع أحوالي عملي